Howdy, happy Tuesday. Do you like our party decorations? We celebrated one of our kiddos' birthdays this past weekend, and we're still celebrating because why not? Here's your first free tip for me for the day. Always celebrate whatever you can. All the little wins along the way matter, and it's worth the big deal to celebrate it. All right. Even if that means hanging some streamers for yourself today, I support that. There's also a bit of a frog in my throat, which is why you didn't get this content yesterday when it's Mondays are usually when I've been going live sharing parts of my Lyme healing story with you throughout the month of May, which is Lyme Disease Awareness Month. So I'm here with you today. Let's pretend it's Monday to share part 4 of my story. We're almost there. We're almost done. Next week, we're going to do part 5 to wrap up the series. So it's a 5-part series, but it's broken down into manageable chunks for you. It's the first time I've laid my whole story out, honestly, start to finish or start to now, quite like this in detail with almost everything. I don't think I'm leaving anything out, not intentionally at least. So this is the first time I've really said it all instead of just cutting some corners to make it shorter or to make it more accessible. But here's the deal. It takes a 5-part series because my journey has been ongoing for over 20 years to healing. So that's a lot to cover. All the while working on healing. Not everyone's journey is going to look like that, but I want you to know if yours does, if yours is in it for the long haul, there's still hope in healing and there's still joy to be found along the way. Okay. So let's get going on part 4. If you missed parts 1, 2, and 3, you can find them all on YouTube. You can find them all on my blog if you prefer to read about them. And you can find them all in Limey and Crunchy, my holistic healing Lyme Facebook group that I have linked below for you. We'd love to have you all there. It's a fun place to be, full of hope and healing. And the reality of Lyme is there too. And we support each other through it, through all the ups and downs. So I've linked part 1 on YouTube for you below as well. So you can get caught up if you need to start from the beginning, but just know where you can find me. Oh my gosh, I got so windblown today. It is what it is. So without further ado, if you don't know me, I'm Adele Cole, and I am your Lyme disease advocate and educator, mentor, and coach. And I approach it all from a whole person perspective of healing being possible, doable, and even enjoyable along the way. I'm not saying it's all going to be fun and games, but I am saying it doesn't all have to be misery and horror either. Okay. There are ways to enjoy and embrace the journey as you go, as you excel in your journey as well. So make sure if you're catching this on YouTube live or in the replay that you like and subscribe just so you don't miss any more content, and certainly not the end of my current up-to-date story as it will be next week. And like I mentioned earlier, hop into Limey and Crunchy linked below. It's free, it's fabulous, and it's a fun community for healing holistically from Lyme. My disclaimer also is every time as it stands, I'm not here to treat, diagnose, cure, or otherwise tell you how to live your life medically. That's between you and your trusted provider team. But I'm here to offer you suggestions, education, things I've learned along the way myself. And this is just my story as it happened to me. So do with it what you will, but let it be your guide for empowerment maybe, and for the hope of healing, and maybe to lead you to your own research and own discussions with your medical team, like I said. So where did we leave off on part 3? Well, basically, I'm newly pregnant. I'm working as a nurse in a stressful ICU situation. I had just switched my position to a part-time from full-time position. I'm pregnant, and I finally had my eyes opened through the power of the documentary Under Our Skin, had my eyes opened to the realities of Lyme disease. And I finally, for the first time in a while, realized I wasn't crazy. Things were happening to my body that needed to be addressed from a tick-borne illness perspective. Providentially, at that same time, my husband's boss and his wife had a Lyme literate provider they were seeing, and I was therefore able to hop in on that recommendation and get treatment for my situation. So anyway, so that's where we left off last time. I'm at this Lyme literate provider. She's doing some testing, but she's also treating me immediately based on symptoms, and I'm pregnant at the time. And as we now know, Lyme disease can pass from mom to baby through being pregnant and through breastfeeding potentially. So new adventure for me, right? I end up being diagnosed with not only Lyme disease, but also babesia, mycoplasma, anaplasmosis, and then like there's a number of opportunistic co-infections with that too, Epstein-Barr virus, HHV6, and maybe some other minor things that were popping up on my lab work. Honestly, those were the highlights. I'll say it that way. I was tested through IGeneX. She uses MDL labs. She has used and some LabCorp stuff, but for the most part, most of the tick-borne illnesses were diagnosed through MDL and IGeneX, I believe. She still uses those today. She also has used Vibrant labs occasionally. Everyone wants to know what labs. It depends on what you're looking for and like what you're finding, because lab testing for Lyme is grossly unreliable. And so my Lyme provider kind of knows how to navigate what different tests might be able to provide based on what symptoms are showing. And at the end of the day, treats based on symptoms anyway. And that's a good practice to have when you're dealing with Lyme and co-infections. So she's used, excuse me, she's used some other labs as well along the way. But those were some main ones when I was initially being tested. Now, this was like about 11 years ago that I was starting this journey. My daughter, my oldest daughter is 10, going on 11 soon, and I was pregnant with her at the time. So do the math. So things have evolved with the lab world, and my provider continues to use IGeneX and MDL heavily, and some other labs too. Galaxy is another one too. She's used on occasion with our family. So, and we'll get to that later. Yes, I said our family. So I get into treatment. My Lyme provider uses a combination of antibiotics and herbals and supplementation. She has a pretty holistic approach, but she's not a holistic or integrative medicine or functional medicine provider. She's a medical provider by degree. She's also a nurse practitioner and a nurse midwife too. So, but she has a more holistic approach than some traditional medicine providers would have, which I liked. I appreciated that. And I felt like her approach was very comprehensive. But being pregnant and then breastfeeding, and I chose to breastfeed all my babies. So I had 4 babies, 5 pregnancies with a miscarriage in there in the middle of it all, and 4 breastfeeding journeys for a year-ish, give or take, each. That's to recap like my whole childbearing years, basically. Through all of that, she treats more conservatively with less herbals because they're less documented safe through pregnancy and breastfeeding, less on the herbal side and more on the antibiotic side. But also when we would trial me in between pregnancies on, less antibiotics, more herbals, I often didn't do as well. So here we are on this journey of like rotating through different antibiotics and different herbals, occasionally pulsing some of them, adjusting as we go. But in general, I was making forward progress, which was really cool. And she also used combination therapies of things to kind of tackle killing off things, but also cyst busting and biofilm busting for the Lyme specifically, because that one's a little aggressive with trying to evade treatments. And so supplementation came into play there with some of the supplements that help with that, serapeptases, and even stevia can be helpful for some in that way. Green tea, cryptolepsis, like there was all different types of supplements that can be used in that way as well. I'm not here to go through every in and out of all the medications and herbals I've been on, but it's been a combination of some of the very common ones for specific Lyme and co-infection needs. Don't forget, I had babesia, mycoplasma, anaplasmosis, those things as well. I did treat babesia with their typical Mepron, and I was on antibiotics at the time too for the Lyme anyway. So I have done a variety of things over the years, but not willy-nilly, with a goal in mind and based on where I was with my breastfeeding and pregnancy at any given time. So my first 3 kids actually came back to back pretty quickly and didn't leave a lot of time in between them to do a lot of heavy duty treatment. Then I had some time off. I had a miscarriage, and then I had my son, my 4th baby, and there was a little bit more of a gap there where I got some treatment in and was starting to really make some strides. So I felt good about the potential for when I was done breastfeeding him, what I could really start tackling, which is he's only 3 now. So it's only been in the last 2 years again that I've gone a little more aggressive, shall you say, with treatment. But I've been ready for it. I've been here, ready and waiting. I have not had a lot of struggle with things like molds and parasites and stuff like that to tackle too, which I know some people have. And it can be done along with your treatment with knowledgeable providers. Some people choose to treat that first, but you know, ultimately that's between you and your provider, how you want to proceed with that. I was glad to be getting to the treatment of what was causing my struggles, and I was glad to see impact from my treatment almost right away. Sometimes, though, it was 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I gotta say, time had to be on my side for all of this. So let me make sure I didn't skip anything from my notes here. But what was amazing was I was also seeing when I first, like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, started seeing my Lyme provider. I was also still seeing a rheumatologist because I thought I had all these rheumatological autoimmune type conditions. And then I started to see those improving as I was treating my Lyme and co-infections. Again, over time, this wasn't in like a week. This wasn't even in months. This was over months and years. And eventually, I don't remember exactly how long it was, but I know my daughter was born and a baby. I remember taking her to my rheumatology appointment occasionally. But shortly after my daughter was born, so at least within a year or two of starting actual Lyme treatment, I quit my rheumatologist because I saw my Lyme treatment making bigger progress for me in the rheumatological department. And I realized the rheumatologist was just heading down a road of continuing to medicate for symptom management. And here I was actually realizing Lyme was the culprit for possibly all of my autoimmune and rheumatological stuff. I don't know for sure, but bottom line is through treating Lyme and making lifestyle changes for my health, I no longer really struggle with any, or most at least, of my rheumatological and autoimmune conditions. They are pretty much gone or completely under control, however you want to look at it. Very, very occasionally, I will still have, I can't even tell you the last time I did, a Raynaud's flare. I have Raynaud's phenomenon, but that actually I was diagnosed with prior to having contracted potentially Lyme disease. And also other members of my immediate family have it as well and don't have Lyme. So that was one that was questionable. Is Lyme to blame for this, or is it making it worse? Or was Raynaud's part of the package of Adele? I don't know. I probably will never know, but that is the one autoimmune condition that still continues to pop up very, very rarely. Like I said, I can't even tell you last time though that I had any kind of symptoms of it. Whereas I used to daily pretty much deal with flare-ups of Raynaud's back when it was at its worst. Yeah, it was always on my mind as something I had to like manage and be aware of and be, addressing in my fingers and toes, especially. So my biggest takeaway from this message is that time does matter. I've been treating in various capacities for 11 years because of pregnancy and breastfeeding, limiting some of my treatment options, all the while, though, making at least primarily forward progress. Like I said, sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back is what happens. I'm not going to lie to you. But slow and steady can also win the race. It's not a race, though. It's not. Do many people make faster progress? Absolutely. Was it hard to watch people making faster progress? Absolutely. Do I regret being a mom and having my babies and approaching treatment the way I did? Absolutely not. I still managed to get where I wanted to get with my healing journey. Spoiler alert. Despite the time it took. So chances are, unless you're going through a lot of baby making or other things that might hold up your treatment to a degree, it's probably going to go a little faster for you than me. And even if it doesn't mean it's hopeless or impossible or that you shouldn't still chip away at it, in my mind at least. Okay. So I also So remember, still forward progress, slower progress for I wrote about 8-ish years when I calculated how long I was pregnant or breastfeeding with minimal breaks in between. So for 8-ish of these the last 11 years, I've had minimal opportunity to treat aggressively. Maybe here and there for a few months until I got pregnant again, but it's okay. My Lyme provider fully supported my decision making in that way, and that was a decision for me to make with the help of my husband and my Lyme provider. And like I said, no regrets. I was glad to be able to treat through all of it to help prevent my kids from having to deal with what I had to deal with health wise. So, also during that time, throughout the last 11 years, I have used different modalities on top of treatment to help me with my health. I'm not going to lie to you and just be like, only treatment, that's all you need. No, there are lifestyle management things that might be important for your healing as well. Some things I have done, I know it's going to look different for everyone, but I have done myofascial release up until recently when my myofascial release provider recently retired. So even if I could only get there a couple times a year, I would still try to go as often as I could reasonably go to get some of that treatment. If you recall in my previous, maybe part 2 video, I talk about how that impacted my health. So I never stopped doing that, and I'm going to look for a new provider so that I can continue that therapy for myself. I continued that. I adapted some of our products, shall we say, in-home usage of things to include less toxic options. So we got toxins out of our home as much as possible, out of our food, out of our cleaning products, out of our personal care products. We had started using more essential oils, CBD, more natural, like literally truly from nature products, not just natural. It says it's natural. No, really, truly non-toxic products. I started reading labels, learning about chemicals and toxins that were impacting my healing. And I was newly a mom. I was having babies, and I wanted the best environment for their health and healing and life in general anyway. So this was a perfect time for me to start actually seriously evaluating the toxin burden I was putting on my whole family. So we addressed that. And we also looked at how we address detoxing too from all that chemical input into our bodies. I got some involvement with a functional medicine provider for a time period in the middle of my treatment. Honestly, just to kind of fine tune my health. This functional medicine provider was a specialist in nutrition and genetics. So she helped me hone in on my genetic needs. And that helped my Lyme treatment additionally too, because we could really get down to what I needed or didn't need to be doing for some of my treatment and my overall healing. So that was really beneficial for a period of time. Honestly, I would go back and do that again or continue to do that for tune-ups as finances allowed for myself, because that was a really good experience for me in addition to my Lyme treatment. I have done chiropractic care off and on. Currently I'm on it for life. I love it. It's a very helpful modality for me and my whole family. I have done talk therapy and like counseling as needed off and on. Most recently, I'm going to talk about this more in the next video. I'm doing it a little more intensively and bringing up even more about my healing journey. I hadn't really done it just for like the medical trauma that I've been through, and the medical stuff and illness stuff, healing stuff I've been through over the years. So now I'm getting down to addressing that more recently too. I've addressed hormones here and there as they've fluctuated through pregnancy and breastfeeding, especially, but also just being a woman and aging and things change sometimes. So addressed hormones as needed. I've addressed my cardiovascular function as needed. That came up through the functional medicine provider as being an area to fine tune for me, even though I did not have Lyme carditis. Specifically, I talked in the last video about a lot of my Lyme symptoms too, mostly pain, some neuro-Lyme stuff, neuropathy, headaches, lots of brain fog and cognitive dysfunction. Basically, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, arthritis, like all those autoimmune conditions describe my Lyme symptoms, right? But I was having some Raynaud's too, so maybe some vascular involvement, cardiovascular involvement. Neurotransmitter, neurohormone stuff was addressed off and on as needed. Gut healing was addressed. My functional medicine provider helped me a ton with that, but like in a focused fashion. But my Lyme provider also works on gut healing too as part of her treatment, because You ain't going to be on antibiotics without some gut help. I know this. It wasn't my first choice, but it was the best choice that helped me heal, actually. So I was able to do it without wrecking my gut. My gut is actually better now, post antibiotic usage, than it was before I started treatment. The Lyme itself was also hard on my gut. And that was the catch-22. Antibiotics are going to be hard on my gut. Lyme and co-infections can be hard on my gut. What do I do? Either way, gut healing is going to be necessary, whether you use antibiotics or not, because it could be a symptom of Lyme involvement, just impacting your gut health. We worked on immune boosting this whole time. I always will. I will carry that into my sustenance of healing to come. And most recently, I added something called cytoscanning to the mix of my treatment and healing process. And I'm going to talk about that more in part 5, our last part, where I'm going to talk about where I'm at right now, what I'm doing now, and what the future might look like for sustainability of healing. So these lifestyle changes were huge for me. They were just as necessary as treatment, because they are what, like I said, sustain the healing too. You can't just treat and not help your immune system out, or help your gut out, or get detox flowing. You can't continue to introduce chemicals into your environment and your body and then expect it to continue to heal for you. How we treat our body and our environment is just as critical to our long-term success. I also should mention I worked a lot on my stress management and my sleep improvements too, because those are crucial for healing. And a lot of times can be simple to manage. I know not always, but sometimes simple modalities make a world of difference, like deep breathing and going outside every day, and having a sleep schedule. I'm not saying it's always that simple, don't get me wrong, but at least there are simple places to start with some of these things. And that's where I was able to start feeling like I had empowerment over my healing by just adding in little doable things, not all of which cost a lot of money or involved a lot of effort or time. I could do them if I was even bedridden or feeling really crummy one day, or having a bad day, or having a Herxheimer reaction or a flare or whatever. So I did have some instances of herxing and flaring that was managed very well through my Lyme provider, either by adjusting our treatment regimen, slowing it down, or backing off of some stuff, or by increasing my detoxing modalities. If you want to know more about some of what I personally did to detox, and what I've also researched about detoxing, I have an actual free workshop called Jumpstart Your Detox. It's in Limey and Crunchy, which I told you I linked in the description here. So if you hop in that group, it's one of the guides, and it's all about more about that. So I don't go on and on here about that. You can check it out there. So bottom line is, lifestyle changes were huge and necessary in this part of my journey, and probably should have been from the get-go. I just learned it at this point in my journey. Okay. And it especially became evident when my treatments were more limited because of pregnancy and breastfeeding. These lifestyle changes continued to help maximize the treatments I was doing. So overall, I was able to sustain my health and even make improvements, even when I couldn't treat more aggressively or harder or faster. Even when Herxheimer reactions would crop up, or flares would crop up, I could still count on these lifestyle changes to help carry me through. When it was feeling like 2 steps back, I could maybe get that 1 step forward, even just from these lifestyle changes, optimizing my gut, my immune system, adding in a little detox, tweaking those things, looking at my supplement regimen and how my diet and my nutritional levels were impacting my healing, where are my minerals and vitamins at, where are my neurotransmitters and my hormone levels at. All of that is optimization of your body's natural ability to heal, which you cannot discount. Treatment alone doesn't substitute your body's ability to help heal itself. So detoxing and removing toxins, gut healing and health, immune support, stress and sleep management. Most recently, dealing with trauma therapy and emotional recovery and healing, all have been unequivocally instrumental in my overall healing process. And I say that because I don't want anyone else to underestimate the power and impact they can have on your healing journey too. That being said, next time we're going to talk about where I'm at now And what has happened in the last couple years with my seemingly perfect setup for healing, I'm on this trajectory to get better and better, but it didn't always stay exactly perfectly the way I wanted it to. And we'll talk about what happened next. Okay, so not only do you want to make sure you're in limey and crunchy, like I said, but before you go, I want to tell you about Design Your Holistic Lyme Healing Blueprint. That is a program I have just rolled out in time for Lyme Disease Awareness Month that is all of what I'm talking about today made accessible and doable and sustainable for you. That's right. I've taken these step-by-step sustainable lifestyle changes and put them into place to translate into something you could also add into your own healing journey. So, if you feel like you're needing additional support or guidance for your own healing, let's just talk about what Design Your Holistic Lyme Healing Blueprint might look like for you, or what else I have out there in terms of trainings, workshops, freebies that might help you get where you want to head in an empowered and peaceful fashion, right? Working smarter, not harder to get there. I'm here to help. It's what I love to do. Let me help you. Just reach out to me and we'll chat to see if it's a good fit. I've linked Design Your Holistic Lyme Healing Blueprint below as well, so you can check it out and read more about all that it entails. But it's a great way to maximize your healing plans and your treatment plan, whatever you're currently doing or not doing. It's a great way to still accelerate your healing and amplify your healing from a holistic, whole person perspective. All right. And hey, I will save you time and energy in the process, and probably money too, because it's all the things I wish I knew to get to where I'm at a little bit faster and a little bit easier than I did. Live and learn. That is all I can say I did from it all. I lived and I learned, and I created a course for you instead. So take it and run with it, my friends. All right, until next time, have a great week ahead. Cheers to your healing journey.